Good morning and welcome to 59 Minutes. My name is Levi Kones. It's not every day that we have, a lady and a gentleman who is deaf on our show, but today is a first. And I'm going to be talking to a lady and a gentleman who are both deaf and both, challenged with the impairment of hearing, and we are going to be discussing about those challenges as well as how they have overcome them, and talking to all of you who may have somebody who is deaf or you're deaf yourself, and to see how you can navigate that space and live a full life. Because as we say, disability is not inability. So join me this morning as I welcome Dominic Omondi. He's from Light for the Word, and Eunice Boya. She's from Kenya National Association for the Deaf. Their sound will be provided by somebody else off the set, so we are going to have an interesting conversation. Karibuni sana. Is it this way? Yeah? Yeah.
Yes, yes, it is. Thank you.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Welcome
Thank you.
to the show.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
Yeah. Let me start with you, Eunice. How would you introduce yourself? Who is Eunice Boya?
Thank you. First, greetings to you all. I'll start by fingerspelling my name. My name is Eunice. I work as the program coordinator for Kenya National Association for the Deaf.
All right. What about you, Dominic?
Yes, first, let me appreciate you for being here, for inviting us here. My name is Dominic Marocco, and I'm a beneficiary of Light for the World, which focuses on economical empowerment.
Okay. Let me ask about your stories. Dominic, have you always been deaf? What has been your experience?
Well, my experience being a deaf person, I think from what I've been told, I became deaf from a very tender age. And I started schooling at Maseno. There's a school for the deaf. I finished my class 8, then went to Nyangoma, where I did carpentry. Mm-hmm. And from that, also I joined another college in Mombasa. Then after that, I've been doing a number of businesses and working on the side. Mm-hmm.
Yes. How has been the personal journey as a deaf person amongst people who hear? What can you say has been your greatest challenges?
Well, mostly is having an interaction with them because of communicational differences, and also understanding me as a deaf person with someone who comes up with a rich culture. So the communication has been stuck on just writing to and fro with each other. But sometimes you meet some of hearing people who will be interested in the language and they'll learn, and you have a better interaction from that. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Was it difficult learning the signs and how to communicate?
Well, there are some hearing person who will perceive sign language to be hard as a process of learning. But when I'm teaching them, then you understand their level of learning, how fast they can pick up. Then you adjust to that. You teach them slowly. Then we have a number of them who are becoming interpreters, like the one we have.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Very interesting. Eunice, what has your journey been like?
Well, my story is a little bit different. I wasn't born deaf. I was born with complete hearing abilities. And it was until when I was in class 8, I did my KCPE as a hearing person. Then when I was done with my KCPE, I wanted to join my Form 1. Then I had gotten my admission letter already to join. And 1 week remaining for me to join Form 1, that is when I became very, very ill. I was admitted in hospital. Then it was after I was admitted out of the hospital, then that is when I realized that my hearing abilities are lost. So it happened that the doses that was given were the reason why their hearing ability was lost. And I was told that, well, the abilities will come back with time, but that never came to happen till now. So my parents started thinking about what are the other options of my education, because it was a challenge for me to continue with normal education system. So I went and joined a deaf school. That is when I started like understanding the deaf way, and now I'm completely a member of the deaf community.
Okay.
Yes.
I can imagine the distress you must have had when you completely lost your hearing. Tell us a bit about that journey. How was it like for you mentally?
Well, truly, at that time, I felt like that is the end of my world. Like, I felt like everything has come to a stop, standstill at that particular moment. Like, I'm in Form 1, I can't hear anything. And I'm not aware of anyone who is deaf around me. Everyone around me is hearing. And my experience is with hearing people. I don't have experience with deaf persons. So I felt like I'm the only one in the world who doesn't hear anything. It was stressful for me at that particular moment. I suffered depression at that particular time. And you know, it almost affected my mental health status. But with time, with the rehabilitation towards the deaf community, then at the moment now I'll say I'm more empowered and I have no worries, I think, at the moment. Yeah.
So living in the world of silence, for example, you know, those of us that can hear, we enjoy music. We enjoy maybe listening to maybe programs on radio and TV. How is it like for you? How do you get to be entertained? What entertains you? Either of you can answer, and both of you can tell me your experiences.
Well, yeah, I'll take it. I think for us to follow up, especially programs on television, we coordinate between the visual on the presenter and the interpreter on the insert. So we coordinate between the two for us to follow up on whatever is happening in the field of politics and all that. Then when it comes to like music, we majorly depend on vibration. So if you have a drum, we can listen to the beats. And also we have those with residual hearing abilities that can also use earphones and boost the volume for them to enjoy some of this. Yeah. Yes, I think for me as Eunice, I think there are some aspects of voicing like that we can miss out, like maybe a melody, but we do get the beats. We may not get the melody and from the lyrics, but we do get the beats, and sometimes if you can get an interpretation. So we get music from looking through the lyrics and feeling the beat, but we can miss out on the melody. So we depend on that. So there's that, when you hear vibration of a loud music, then you can hear the beat in your heart. And I think it's a beautiful thing for us. We hear the music in our own different ways, and we can dance to that particular beat. So, and fully actually participate in music, be it also in television or live performances. Yeah.
Thank you guys. So Dominic and Eunice, a lot of strides have been made in you know, reaching out to the deaf community. A lot of people now are more aware, and I think there are more people who have use of sign language more than maybe 10, 20 years ago. Tell me about the challenges that you have had when, in the past, have you found yourselves in situations where, you know, the hearing disability has, you know, put you in a place where you have been very frustrated that you can't communicate something? Give me an incident, either now or even in your childhood.
I'll take this one. I think I had an experience growing up. Remember, at the moment, growing up, I acquired language later because I couldn't acquire the same from school. Then also, within the school setting, the challenge that we are having is, at the moment, we were being led by instructors who are not proficient in sign language. So that became a challenge for us to acquire education for us. Also, another challenge will be like, now you're all grown up and you want to take part in economical activities, but you don't have access to business registration process and how to go about it, what are the taxes, policies that are existing there. So you as a deaf person, you will just start your own business without registering it. Then later on you have issues with the government through the municipal council, but you don't even know that you're on the wrong. Sometimes we also have this challenge where maybe you have applied for a job opportunity or you want to apply for a job opportunity, but first you can't get access to the information of about those job opportunities that are existing. Yeah.
I hear you. Eunice?
Yes, but I think I do remember because I wasn't born deaf. So at home, where I was, remember at the moment I haven't learned sign language, so I have to go to the deaf school, then learn sign language. So I learned sign language, but I went back at home. Then I found that I'm experiencing communication barrier because my family is not educated on sign language, so we can't, communicate. I depended a lot on lip reading, which is quite very hard. So I started experiencing communication barriers at home, and that brought me to church. I have been a religious person. Before I lost my hearing, I used to love singing, but after I lost my hearing, then I couldn't do that because I can't hear myself, so I couldn't do that. So you could go to church, but most of these churches don't have an interpreter. So you'll just go, sit there, God will see me that I'm here, and that's all. So that is how you are following up the service. And that was a major challenge. But we can say it has been a journey, but the experience in rural areas and within urban settings are totally different, because within urban settings you can go there and find that we have interpreters provided for within the church services, which has helped remove the barriers of communication that you can have. So that we make sure that deaf persons are not left behind. We also see at the moment we have provision of interpreters in the television setting. So we have an improvement, we have a transition that and an awareness that has been created. We can see the improvement. The number of also interpreters is increasing, right? So, and now if when we are signing, people won't be shocked, right? So before you could sign and people will look at you and run away from you. So I think this awareness has improved, not fully, but we can see transformation. And I believe in the future, Kenya will be the best world for the deaf person to participate fully in anything.
I hear you. Like for you, Eunice, by the time you became deaf, you could read and write, yes? Are you still able to do that? Do you still do that? And Dominic, can you do that?
Yes. I think the aspect of reading and writing is as a result of the quality of deaf education. Because the deafness does not affect the ability to read and write, but what will affect with the situation within the education setting. If you have a teacher who doesn't know sign language, then they'll not be able to impact that particular skill. So like you'll be taught like, how do you sign this particular concept? But are you taught in a way that there is no communication barrier for you to be able to be impacted with the reading and writing skills, right? But maybe for someone who learned and had the foundation of hearing education, you get that I'll have a better foundation in terms of reading and writing skills than someone who was in an education setting which the quality was questionable, right? Also, like you are also at home where you don't communicate with your families, you know, and people learn from socializing a lot. So from that, it also impacts the quality that you have. But I think most of the time, deaf are more expressive by signing, which we feel
I can
is a
see
more
that, it's
useful
true.
language.
Yeah. Dominic, how's the reading and writing for you?
Yes, you know, most of the time, most of the deaf persons, especially within the rural setting, have a challenge with that, and that is as a result of schooling, right? That is as a result of schooling. It will affect that, because another mode of communication is not. We don't depend only on signing, but also reading and writing, especially when you're communicating with someone who doesn't know sign language. So most of us, yes, can, but how well you can do it depends on the quality of education that you got. So, but we would prefer more like signing to just reading and writing to each other, because it helps us to express ourselves. And for instance, if you find a deaf person who did not receive that quality education, then he or she may not be able to express himself or herself through writing. So I think we will prefer like doing things visually, that in terms of signing and expressing ourselves visually, more than reading and writing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Tell me about your families. How important is it for family to be able to not only accept your condition, but to find themselves, to readjust, because they also have to learn some sign language to be able to communicate with you. Have you found support in your families in that line? In terms of them being able now to communicate with you? Have you had family members who have gone out of their way to learn?
Yes, me growing up as Dominic, my feeling then was okay. The first process that my parents took was to admit me to a deaf school, but that was it. They were not interested in learning sign language or how does it happen. So they depend mostly on oral communication, and which is a challenge. I have to like try and ask around for clarity on the same. But for my siblings, I think if I'm interacting with my mom, yes, we can use natural signs that we can, you know, communicate me and each other, because there's that connect that we have had. So it's not generally with everyone within my family. Yeah. Yes.
What about yours, Eunice?
Yes, I think I can talk more on the area of acceptance, especially from the perspective of the family. I think from my growth, the first step was accepting myself and understanding the family that I'm coming from, and how do I view also myself, right? So I really feel, even though I can accept myself, then if my family can accept that, then it can be really easy for me to build up on my life from there. I think my encouragement will be for families of the deaf children to believe in the abilities of their kids and encourage them to achieve them, whether they are deaf or they have any other type of a disability. That belief is key. That family support is very, very important for the child's growth in future, to become the best that he or she can be. But if you have a family from the deaf perspective who would prefer for you to just depend on oral communication, then it becomes a challenge. Because now, when I went and started my schooling, I came back home. We were doing a lot of like lip reading, you know, and you go back to school, I'm supposed to pick up on my signing. So it was affecting both sides. So I came back and tried to inform, like try to encourage my family to learn sign language, starting especially with the younger ones. So I taught them a little bit of sign language, and we started like having, you know, more efficient interaction with them. So with them, I can easily talk to them. But generally, most of the parents first haven't accepted that their children are deaf, and that will make the kids feel that they are hated by the family, they are not included, they are left behind. Because you can imagine, if you as a parent of a child, then you believe your child cannot do anything, then how do you think that will impact the deaf child? So they grow believing that me as a deaf person, I cannot achieve A, B, C, D. So that is the impact. I think families need to change their perspective, which is very, very important for us to, that is what I can say.
Yeah, and even get to learn sign language amongst families. Are there signs we use, because a lot of us talk, we use our hands, we gesture a lot. Are there signs that confuse you when we are talking? Like somebody's talking, but they're throwing their hands, and in your language, it's very different from what they're communicating.
I think, you know, I think yeah, most of the time people have gestures that they're using. Some of them make sense, some of them don't make sense. Kenyan Sign Language is a complete language. It has its own structure and syntax. So sometimes people think just throwing your hands on the air and you're doing like some gestures, that it makes sense. No, gestures have been there, but we have things that are standard gestures. But most of the time, people will just, you know, come up with their own gestures that are nonsensical. But if you want to understand now the standard language, which is, for instance, Kenyan Sign Language, then we have a training program under languages that you can undertake and understand the full language of Kenyan Sign Language, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, we have because if you're using gestures and someone is using Kenyan Sign Language, you may not be able to communicate fully unless you use the standard.
I hear you. Yeah. Dominic, are there things we throw in the air that confuse you in terms of that sign language? When you're talking to someone and they, you know.
Yes. Yeah, we have such cases. Because actually, like maybe if someone has not acquired standard sign language, Kenyan Sign Language, then they'll just try to, you know, point out things, describe things, but the visual concept is so general that for you to understand the specific concept becomes hard. So Kenyan Sign Language is more specific. You can easily pick up the concept, right? And like sometimes you may go to town and you meet up people who are just throwing hands in the air, thinking that you understand, and you may nod, but you really don't get anything. So if you have someone who understands like standard sign language, then it can help. Or maybe you have someone who is proficient in natural science, then they can help interpret for you the natural science to standard sign language, so that you can get the actual concept that is being portrayed. Yeah. Yeah.
How do you communicate when you're using public transport and you're in public places? How do you communicate that I'm deaf, to people so that they don't mistake you? Because I'm sure that has happened sometimes. You get into a matatu maybe and nobody knows you're deaf and people are asking for money and they're coming around and somebody's wondering, why isn't this person hearing? How do you get to communicate effectively? Has that frustrated you, by the way?
Yeah. Yes. I think, I don't know. Yeah, I'll take this one. So I think many times, actually my experience is like you go to the shop, then you try to point out something, then the shopkeeper talks to you verbally. I'm like, no, just give me a piece of paper. I write the item that I want, then I can get that. So you can't really tell that I'm deaf unless I try signing. But with that first experience, then next time when I come, they understand that. Then I can use maybe natural signs for that, or they know whatever I always buy, like bread, then I can get that given to me. But sometimes you can meet some people who the experience with them is a challenge that you'll have to most of the time just rely on reading and writing, right? You are asking for direction, but they are talking back to you, right? So what you do is you have to find a way of trying to write to them, but some will see that as a process, because now you have to carry a book or a note where you can just point out some item that you want to write, or use your phone. Yeah. Yeah. I think I have a similar experience, because anytime I'm commuting to work, I have to board a public vehicle. So most of the matatus, they understand the gesture of like, I'm deaf, deaf. They understand the basic gestures. So I can use my phone to text my destination to them, then just remind them on that. And when we are at the destination, they can stop the vehicle, and I can get out. So I think that happens. Maybe you also have a business where you're selling clothes, but most of your customer don't know like how to communicate, or how do you negotiate, especially when you're trying to bargain in terms of
cost. I'm wondering what's 1,000, for example.
Yeah.
How do I say?
Yeah. So
this is 1,000.
Yes, 1,000.
What is
so
100,000? 1 and a comma.
Yes.
What's 100,000?
So it's 100, then a comma. Yes.
Oh, what about 1,000,000?
It's 1, then M. So we have like 1 million.
Oh,
so
that's
M.
1 million.
So, yes.
This is M. Let's do the alphabet. Maybe as we go to break. Maybe you can tell us the A to Z of...
Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
So let's start with, where do we start from? A.
Yes.
This is A.
Yes, this is A.
That's B.
Yes, B.
That's C.
D.
D.
Then E.
E.
Yes. Then F.
Oh, interesting.
G.
G.
H.
H.
I. J.
J.
Then K.
K.
Yes, K. The thumb is at the middle.
The thumb is, this one. Okay.
Yes. Then L.
L.
M. N.
And you put it down inside.
Yes. Then
O.
O. Yes. P. Then Q. Q like G, but inverted.
Like,
yes.
Yes. It's very interesting.
Then R. S. Yes, S. The thumb is on the fist.
On the fist here.
Side. S. Then T.
So thumb up, this one on top.
Yes. U. V. W.
Oh, that's easy.
Yes. X.
X is...
Yes. Y. And finally, Z.
And Z. Oh, very interesting. I wish they could teach that in schools. Like normal schooling, they should just have a sign language class. Just for guys to...
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, sure. I think it's something that it should be considered, because I think for manual alphabets, you can pick them even within a week. And from that, you have the basic finger spelling skills, just doing manual alphabet practicing. Then you can also do numbers 1 to 10, like, well, for instance, like if you want to do 1 to 10, like this is 1.
Oh, like this is 1, 2.
This is 2, this is 3,
that is
4, 5, then you 6.
Then you do 6, 7, 8, 9,
10.
Oh, it's very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. It will be nice because you can speak in another language when people are not hearing? I'm sure sometimes you guys have a lot of fun discussing people who cannot understand you.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah,
Yeah?
Because my wish would be, now that we have CBC being revised, if
Yeah.
they can recognize sign language in school, that will make children very, very active. Because I remember the other time I went to a certain school, which is an international school. We were doing an awareness event and we were teaching them sign language. And now they have picked up on the language and they are learning it. They are not deaf. So we have a lot of interest out there. We just have to ignite it. And cognitively, it makes them more active. And they can also interact with their peers who happen to be deaf. So I think sometimes we can't take part in social interaction because of communication barrier, but I think if the CBC revision committee can consider that, then it will create even more awareness and inclusion.
It will. It will. I'm going to take a quick break on that note. We'll be right back. We are speaking to Dominic Omondi as well as Eunice Mboya on challenges of the deaf. We'll be right back after these messages. Don't go away.